Welcome to the Marketing Mixtape Podcast, hosted by me, Brittany Winfield of The Winfield Creative. If you have a burning marketing question, submit it at speakpipe.com/marketingmixtape, and we'd love to answer it on a future episode. And don't forget to like and subscribe, baby! And if you're really feeling like it, leave us a review so we can find more listeners just like you. So sit back, sip that coffee, and enjoy this episode of the Marketing Mixtape Podcast. Let's go! Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Marketing Mixtape Podcast. My name is Brittany Winfield, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 50-30-20 rule for social media. If you are especially at a time, and I highly recommend, so we should all be at this time, where we are auditing our content mixes. This episode's coming out right around the mid-year mark. So in 2025, if you have not yet audited your content, now's the time to do it. And this is a perfect guideline, a perfect rule in order to see if your social media marketing plan does truly include a content mix in order to produce engaging content rather than just over salesy promotional material. Like, yes, social media plays a part in marketing your services and your products. However, sometimes we forget that it is actually at the top of our sales funnel. It is at the very top where visibility and awareness are the widest part of the funnel, the very top phase. And keeping that in mind, social media is not your closer. What it does is it makes people aware of your brand. It makes people educated and well-informed about the services you provide and the way that you provide those services in order to bring them down your sales funnel and into your community. This episode is all about shifting that mindset of sell, 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 and shifting it to a way that sees our social media platform as a community building tool. So let's get into it. The 50-30-20 rule really gives you an idea of how to split your content. The 20%, which is the lowest percentage, is of course that promotional content. Those are the pieces where you are talking specifically about your products or service. Your call to action is buy or shop or visit the website or book a discovery call. It's very direct in the way that you are asking for people to buy from you. This is also special offers, any discounts. These are the direct pitches to your audience. And we should actually be keeping that on the lower end of our content mix. Sometimes it's even lower depending on if you are engaging in paid advertising. That speaks for itself. So when you are including some paid ads, that organic marketing plan, so the posts that you do not pay for, I would actually decrease that to even 10% or 15% because people are still going to see your paid ad content. So 20% is your guideline for those sales pitchy types of posts. 30%, so a nice 1/3 split, should be brand personality content. This is where you are going to showcase the human side of your business. This is showcasing your employees, the people behind the phone screen. This is showcasing your values, your mission, behind the scenes glimpses on your process, highlighting members of your team so that way they feel appreciated, and even encouraging them maybe to do a little bit of employee generated content, also stories that reflect your brand's personality. Your brand has a certain way that you wish to uphold your reputation online. You have a certain voice and tone that usually reflects how people interpret your business and see your value or your worth. We want to make sure that our brand personality content reflects how we wish to be perceived by other people. And then that 50%, so that half your content, that majority amount, should be value-driven content. So this is directly addressing your audience's needs, their challenges or their pain points, their interests. How are you going to be solving a problem in their life based on your product or service, which is then the solution? This is providing value to them without expecting any return. And I think that's the most important part, where we could sell ourselves in our services in a way that teaches people what they need, but then it guides them into your world. So that way, that final 1-2 punch is who they need. Well, that who they need is you. So the value-driven content, that really addresses what they need in their lives. That 30%, that brand personality content really solidifies that person, that service, that product that they need comes from you. And then that 20% of your content is, okay, now you know that you need a solution in order to save yourself time, save yourself money, save yourself ease and effort and, increase convenience. That 30%, that brand personality content is, okay, I'm the person for you in order to provide that service. And then that 20% is, okay, here's the actual product or service that is going to solve that problem for you. So we are essentially bringing them into a mini funnel as we are practicing this 50-30-20 rule for social media. Now that you know what the 50-30-20 rule is for social media, let's talk about how to implement the rule in a step-by-step way. So step number 1 is understanding your audience. Before you create any sort of content, you need to know who you are speaking to. What are their interests? What problems are they facing? How are you collecting data in order to know who is in your audience? This might also be your existing audience already, your clientele that is currently paying you for your product or service. Who is part of that audience? You can also use tools like surveys, feedback forms, social media analytics to provide you valuable insights to see if your real world client base and your social media audience match. They should be aligning. And that is oftentimes where when there's misalignment, we might be talking to an audience that is in a certain location, that has a certain socioeconomic status, that they speak in certain ways and they use certain lingo, but we think we're talking to person A over here, but really we are using language and visuals and photos that person B that doesn't align with our audience is actually speaking to and understanding. We want to make sure that our audience that is following us, and that is an important part that the algorithm considers when thinking about who to push your content out to, is relationships. So looking at who are you following, who's following you, and then looking at your content and saying, okay, am I reaching the right people? Is this a potential customer that would shop from me? Because if not, then we are not creating content that attracts their attention, that is relatable to them, and that is interesting. And that is really the goal, because those are the other two factors. Beyond relationships, interest and relevancy are the other two huge factors that the algorithm considers when thinking about who to push your content out to. So step 1 is understanding our audience, and if we need to, making adjustments to our content plan in order to align with who we really want to sell to. And I also want to do a quick promotional plug that if you're like, Brittany, I have no idea where to even get started with step 1, we do offer social media strategy sessions called Mentor in Your Pocket sessions at the Winfield Creative. So if you need a little one-on-one guidance, that is something that I can help you with. Because once you understand your audience, we can then make a plan with your content calendar. So a content calendar will help you organize and schedule your posts. So that way your content is consistent. It's a balanced mix of content types. And it also allows you to plan around holidays, events, product launches, those really important times where it's an easy sell for your marketing plan. Step 3 is creating content categories. So these are taking from the 50-30-20 rule and categorizing your content. The 50%, which is the value-driven content, this should include tips, how-to guides, industry news, educational types of posts. This is driving value, and this also might be part of the inspirational content pillar as well. So both education and inspiring people to provide them value, to add to their lives, and especially with social social media as a platform where a lot of people are using it as a coping mechanism. There's a lot of BS online right now, especially. If we are able to provide a little bit of joy, make scrolling time that they're spending online worth it, then that is providing value in the form of your content. The 30% is that brand personality content. So this is team introductions, behind the scenes looks, company milestones, really those celebrations, and also expressing gratitude, telling your story, sharing your why. So we want to make sure that 30% of your content when you're planning this content calendar includes those types of posts. And then of course that 20% being that promotional content. So that is the product announcements, special offers, those testimonials even, which land in more social proof. This is you essentially screaming at the rooftops, you need my service, here's the service that you need. And this is why it should only be 20%. Because when you do put it out there and you're like, okay, I have this product that I am promoting, keep in mind that this is essentially talking about your grid posts, but there are ways to remind people that you did do the product announcement. You did do a flash sale and you're keeping that flash sale open and expanding it for the weekend. We can utilize other pieces of the platform, such as sharing posts to stories, to remind people without it having to be duplicated posts on your grid. And then the last step is to monitor and adjust. So using what we call KPIs, which are key performance indicators, you want to track your performance of the posts that you are putting out for the next 30 days. So these metrics, there's value metrics and vanity metrics, don't forget. And if you don't know the difference, go listen to our last podcast episode. So metrics that are important include engagement rates, click-through rates, conversion rates, because these can inform what is going on and what needs tweaking. It is also important to look at your likes and your comments, not so much how many did you get, but who is part of that audience. Because remember that step one was understanding our audience. Well, we want to make sure that the tweaks and adjustments that we are putting into this plan are reaching the right audience members that we identified in step one. So I would even add that as a KPI in answering the question, have I reached my ideal target audience? And that's essentially the 50-30-20 rule and how to implement it. At the Winfield Creative, we like to even ask ourselves, would I want to follow this account? Because if you are asking yourself that question and you are looking at your grid from more of a bird's eye view, taking a step back and saying, well, I did just do 3 promotional posts in a row, the answer is probably going to be no, I don't want to be constantly sold to all the time. So it's sometimes easier to put yourself in the perspective, or even asking for help if that's hard for you to do, asking somebody to audit your profile, asking an employee or a customer of yours, or just a friend, a neighbor, an entrepreneurial accountability buddy, and asking them to check the vibe. Say, hey, when you look at my Instagram, is it too salesy to you? Because they'll tell you the truth. And then that way you are able to readjust and use the 50-30-20 breakdown as your guide, batch a bunch of posts for each category, so that way we don't overfocus on one and ignore the others. When I'm planning out our content calendar, sometimes I'll even color code the different posts so that way I can see the balance at a glance a little bit better. And just also know that sometimes promotional content does get a little bit heavier because we are doing more intentional product launches. So during a launch, we might do 40-20-40, but 50-30-20 is really what we get back to when we're at a reset point. So there's a reason why this mix in particular works, and that's for 3 reasons. Number 1, it enhances engagement. So this provides value and showcases your personality, which fosters deeper connection with your audience. People want authenticity, people want to feel heard, they want to feel seen. And also, if you are providing value-driven content that literally feels like you're talking at the person directly, like you see them, you feel them, you hear them, you understand understand them, they are more likely to engage with that content. Number 2 is it increased trust. So consistent, authentic content, it builds that credibility. It makes followers more receptive to promotional messages because you have that foundation of trust. Know, like, trust, right? Before you even start selling, putting yourself into that know, like, trust mindset and sharing processes, sharing about you, sharing the why behind the mission, because these are the relatable pieces that are going to allow people to get to know you in order to like, know, and trust the brand. And then number 3 is it improves your conversions. So a balanced content strategy can lead to higher conversion rates, and that turns followers into customers. So yes, it's good to gain followers because then your media is being shown to more people. However, the quality of the connections is also extremely important. So remember how earlier in the episode I said that social media, it's a funnel. Like, it's at the top of the funnel, the top of the marketing funnel. So we essentially want to pull people deeper and into those more narrow pieces of the funnel, because that means that they know, like, and trust you enough to buy from you. We don't want to just keep followers as followers. We want to engage with them in a way that brings them into our store, that deepens our relationships with them, that has them subscribe to our email list, which statistically has a higher conversion rate than social media. So thinking about social media and where it plays a part in their customer journey is also imperative. And studies show that brands that focus more on storytelling and value-driven content, they do see those higher engagement rates and better return on investment, specifically on social media platforms. And that's it, my friends. So I've taught you what the 50-30-20 rule is, how to implement it step by step, and why, in case all of that was not convincing enough, why you should be implementing it and the reasons that hold true to this day. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the Winfield Creative. I would love to hear from you and hear how you are implementing this rule in your own content strategy. Until next time, I'm Brittany Winfield with the Winfield Creative, your host of the Marketing Mixtape Podcast. See ya! Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Marketing Mixtape Podcast, brought to you by the Winfield Creative. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you liked, subscribe, follow, review, do all the things so we can find more listeners just like you. And if you have a burning marketing question that you need an answer to, be sure to submit it at speakpipe.com/marketingmixtape. It only takes a second. Until next time, this is Brittany Winfield with the Winfield Creative and the Marketing Mixtape Podcast, signing off.